Hello everybody and welcome to another video by your dude, the Awesome Lurk. And today we're gonna have something really special for you, as you can see, because today we're gonna have a first look of a product that is not out yet, but will be soon, namely the Flight1 G500 and G600 Retrofit Avionics Suite for FSX all the way to P3D. And without further ado, let's jump straight into the thing, because this is actually pretty dang amazing. So, like I said, this is a first look. I'm gonna go the same format that I usually go with as far as reviews go. So I'm gonna be as detailed as possible. I'm gonna look at every feature and every function, but it is a first look. Like I said, this is a beta version that is very far along. The product is not out yet. Once the product is out, I will change the title of the video to released, but the contents will be the same. So, with that disclaimer out of the way, G500, G600 from Flight1. What is it and what do you get? Well, what it is, as you can see on the screen right now, it is a replacement EFIS system for your aircraft. If we close the pop-up for a minute, you can see here we already have virtual cockpit integration of this lovely thing in the Alabeo Seminole as well as the Alabeo Chieftain. How this is going to work, I'm going to explain to you later when we're going to look at the configuration utility, but for now let's just focus on the units themselves. So, another thing to note before we actually get started delving into the functions, this product will be available soon from Flight1. The price is going to be $59.95, excuse me, $59.95. And like I said, I will update the video title once that is actually released and once you can actually go and purchase it. That's disclaimer 1. Disclaimer 2, since this is also based on the real units trainer software, this product requires, let me stress this product requires that you have the GTN, that you own the GTN and have it installed in the latest version. You will need the GTN from Flight1 in order to use this, because just like the real unit, it derives all its positional information, your map position and all that kind of stuff in the flight plan. It derives all of that information from the GTN. So in order to use this properly and to get, you know, everything out of it, the GTN is required. It's not going to work properly if you do not own the GTN. So do please keep that in mind. With that said, so let's actually start getting into what this thing actually is. So what is it that you get? You get a replacement EFIS system, like I said, for the for now Alabeo, Seminole and the Chieftain, but more airplanes will follow, I'm sure. What it is 2 screens, a bezel, you have 10 soft keys at the bottom, you have 2 rotaries, 1 rotary and concentric knob, as well as a selection of hard keys on the side. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna walk through everything, you know, step by step, as we usually do. Starting out, the left side, as you can see, is your primary flight display. The right side is your map display. It displays the same information that you will see on your GTN, including all your flight plan data, if you have a flight plan loaded, all your route information, all that kind of stuff. In addition to that, on the PFD, we can already see a standard EFIS, basically. So, like I said, this is just a replacement for your standard 6-pack, making it more digital and making it a bit more usable. Starting on the far left, we can see a heading, course, altitude, vertical speed, and baro button, as well as a line down to the rotary. And what that is basically, if you have any autopilot mode engaged, like right now we are in heading mode and in altitude hold mode, pressing the heading button will pop up the heading, and if we then use the knob down here, we can change our heading. Also, what we can do, press the middle mouse button, on this knob, excuse me, for a heading sync. So whenever you are flying in a nav mode and you wish to synchronize your heading, you just middle mouse button that and the heading will snap back to what your present heading is. Same goes for course. So if you go down here and switch the CDI over to VOR, if you press course, we have a course line. Again, we can change that. So I think this is pretty self-explanatory. The same goes for the altitude, vertical speed, and the baro over here, and that is how you change those. So your altimeter setting, obviously, if you have to change those, you click baro, you dial in the new number, and everything will be splendid. Moving on again, you can always middle mouse the button to sync your heading. That's the only function for this button as far as the middle mouse button is concerned. Yeah, moving on. Soft keys. Down here we have a row of 5 soft keys that will do various things. Soft keys obviously mean that their function will be whatever it is dictated by the software itself, depending on the page you're on. And we can see already we have a option for the CDI, which we already saw, switching between the nav source and the GPS source, and we have an option for the PFD. And this is where this unit's party piece is hidden in, because since this is based on the actual trainer that you download, that also means that you're gonna get synthetic vision. Garmin synthetic vision, complete with horizon heading and airport signs if you so wish. Horizon heading just displays you the numbers on the horizon, and airport signs just displays you like a street sign with the airport IK on top. Why is this cool? Because this now makes it the second product in the flight sim industry, or in the flight sim space, that actually has a fully working functional synthetic vision. And it is a fully working and functional synthetic vision, including the ability to see traffic targets in relative space. You have obstacles that will be displayed, you have the toss and the terrain and everything that you can imagine. Since, again, it is based on the trainer, you get all the functions of the trainer as well. So, synthetic vision, extremely cool. But that's not all this thing has to offer. There's a lot more there. Granted, most of it is on the right side, but you get the idea. Moving on down here, on the soft keys, we have clock and timer. Clock and timer gives you pretty much what you would expect. Right now I have a clock out here, which is displaying UTC time. You can also change that over to a timer, which you then can start. It's a count up timer, it is not a countdown timer. You have to stop, start, reset. You can switch it back to a clock, or you can hide the entire thing. I personally like having the clock there, but you know, setup options, setup options, setup options. And finally on this page, on the PFD page, you also have a bearing pointer that you can select. Right now that's nav. You can turn that on or off. Bearing 1, bearing 2, nav 1, GPS, whatever you would like to have. Just your regular nav pointer as you've used before, I'm sure. In general, I have to say, if you have ever used a G1000 or anything of that sort, like in the last 10 years, maybe, either in reality or in the flight sim space, you will be immediately familiar with what this unit can offer and what the unit does and how it operates and how it works. It's pretty simple, it's pretty self-explanatory on what this thing is capable of doing. With that said, leaving the PFD, again, synthetic vision, keep that in mind. It has actual functioning synthetic vision, which is really cool. I can't stop saying it because I think it's just incredibly amazing that we finally have this in the flight sim space. But moving on to the MFD, we have a declutter function. Obviously, it does what you would expect. It declutters your map in 3 steps, basically removing information that you don't need and bringing it back. Map over here, we have the ability to have traffic, topo, and terrain. Again, the standard stuff. You've probably seen this a million times before. It's no different from any other TOS-enabled map of any other, you know, Garmin system out there, essentially. And we also have an alerts button down here. Alerts will display you terrain alerts that will also display in a little box down here, and various other alerts that you may have. So if there is a problem, or if there is an alert to display, this will actually flash. You can press on it and you can look at the alert. Over here we have the famous Garmin wedding cake, concentric knobs, hated by many, loved by few. I'm personally not a big fan of that system either, but it is what it is, where we can control the pages. And then over here we have a basic set of controls for the map itself, namely range, so we can zoom in and zoom out. Get the information in the range displayed up here in the little blue box. We also have a menu button, which gets us into the map setup and also the measure bearing and distance. We have a clear button and we have an enter button to confirm any changes that we have made. So, going from top to bottom, like I said, range, menu, map setup. Let's look at the map setup. The map setup lets us change a good number of stuff. We can change the group, so we have the map, the traffic, and aviation. So if you want to look at traffic, for instance, we can select a different traffic mode. TA, PA, TA only, off all traffic, depending on what you want to do. Going up here for aviation, we also have a number of things that we can change, namely the viewing ranges for things mostly, like at what zoom level what information will be displayed on the map, similar to the GTN essentially. Also whether you want to have smart airspace enabled, if you want to have airways visible, airspace labels, you know, you get the idea. Just viewing range information and at what viewing range certain information is displayed. And the same goes for the top group, the map itself, whether you want to track up, heading up, north up, at what zoom level, if you want your track vector, your wind vector, and all that kind of stuff, all those various different settings. Again, I think pretty self-explanatory, and it helps if you just like go and play around with these and see what you would like to have for your setup. Because you have actually two map screens on this unit. You have the primary map, navigation map 1, and you also have the secondary navigation map, map number 2. What you can do with that is you can very quickly switch between different modes, should you so choose or should you so wish. So you can have, like I have right now, I have topographical display disabled on the map number 2, but I have it enabled on map number 1. So that way it gives you a nice little kind of alternative map if you want to look at a specific set of information specifically for a brief moment, or, you know, during the approach phase or during departure or whatever else you have. So that, I think, is a really, really cool little feature that I've not seen on any other system, I think, is the ability to switch between an A and a B kind of map mode. However useful that's going to be for you, I think it personally is rather useful. I actually like it quite a lot, and I am actually using it quite a bit, I have found myself. Moving on to page number 3 on the map screen, we go over to the traffic. I'm currently flying offline and I have no AI enabled, but here you would see your TCAS traffic or your ADS-B traffic. What you can also do, which I found really interesting, if you have targets on here, if you press in here, you would be able to, by pressing in here and then scrolling the outer knob, you will be able to select different targets that show up here, where you can then derive the information, just like you would on the GTN. By pressing on them, here you can do it by clicking and then moving the inner knob or the outer knob. As well as you have settings down here for your motion vector, an absolute vector, a relative vector of the duration you can set up, you know, 1 minute, 2 minute, 5 minute, whatever. So your standard set of ADS-B traffic controls essentially over here on page number 3 of the map subset. And again, you have your alerts button here. That's always present. Moving on to page number 4 of the map itself, we have our TORS view. Again, very self-explanatory what that is. It's a terrain view. We can have it in an arc mode like I have right now, or in a 360-degree visual. You also have your range indicators and your range display here. You can inhibit the TORS entirely. You will see the display up here as well as down here, terrain inhibit. So it will not shout at you if you need to do something, like if you're flying into an airport, you know, surrounded by high mountains or whatever. It's an easy way to just inhibit the TORS temporarily for you to actually fly the approach, not get yelled at by the system constantly. Beyond that, we also have an aux and an FPL page, and let's look at those real quick as well. The aux page starts out with 2, and we have the ability to change pretty much everything that we need to change as far as customization of the unit is concerned. So, at the bottom, the soft keys, we have the ability to reset the whole thing down to default units, default speeds, and we can also do an RA test to test the radio altimeter of the unit. How to set the actual radio altimeter, I will show you, because it's a little bit hidden from what you would usually expect, but it's still there. You can still set your radio altimeter just fine. Starting at the top here, we have the ability to change our brightness. You can dial it all the way back down if you want. It actually works now. Unlike the GTN, in here the brightness level actually functions. And we can also switch between a manual and an automatic mode. As soon as you make a change here, it goes to manual. However, if you want to switch that back to auto, you will notice it will go back and increase the brightness automatically, because it is like, you know, noon essentially right now, bright daylight. So it wants to go to 100% brightness, which it does now. Below that, already selected and highlighted, we have our airspeeds, our glide speed, VR, VX, and VY. with the option to enable or disable display of those speeds. I personally don't use those right now because we are airborne, but you know, you get the idea. You can dial in your speeds depending on what they are, and then turn on or off the ability to display those speeds on the speed tape on the PFD. Beyond that, below that, we also have the wind vector. Right now that's on style 2. You have 4 styles to choose from, including off. So depending on what kind of style for your wind vector you desire, you can choose that. So, you know, if you wanted it textual entirely, which I think is pretty interesting. If you want it in the crossbar, the traditional Garmin crossbar, or if you like me, you just want it, you know, with an arrow and the speed. Same goes for the nav status. The nav status is this little box down here that's currently on style 2. That basically just means, do you want it on the top here, or do you just want it in a little box down on the side of the unit? I personally like it actually down by the side of the unit because it makes the thing a little bit more compact, but again, customizable beyond belief. All these settings will be saved and they will carry over, so there's not going to be a problem with that. Everything is going to function just fine. Everything will be saved and carries over. And also temp reference, depending on what you want down here, you can have your SAT, your TAT, or your ISA. So if you want to look at your ISA reference, we will find out that it's currently ISA +0. Or if you go back to SAT or TAT, we're going to find out that it's currently 8 degrees outside. Database sync and chart streaming down here. This unit can display charts, namely the charts on the GTN itself. It will send those over to this unit. So on the FPL page, you will be able to view charts. You will be able to zoom in, scroll around, pan, and look at the charts. They are geo-referenced, they are fully functional charts, and they work beautifully and look pretty good. Moving on down here, or up here, we have the ability to change the time format. We can have local 12-hour, local 24-hour, or UTC. I like to leave that at UTC personally, but again, up to you. Same goes for the distance and speed. We can change that to nautical, imperial, metric, however what you wish. The same goes for the altitudes. The nav angle, you can change that from magnetic to true. The pressure you can change from inches to hectopascals. And the temperature you can change from Celsius to Fahrenheit. Now, I have actually forgotten to mention something. Let me go back to the map real quick, because I have actually just remembered that I wanted to show you something. So if we go back to the map here, and we press menu, you also have the ability to measure bearing and distance by using the inner and the outer knob. Just like you could, you know, on all the Garmin units. We can just, like, you know, get our bearing, get our distance, get our ETE, or the exact coordinates, etc., etc. So you can do that as well. And then if you press the inner mouse button or the middle mouse button on the inner knob, you get that system as well. So I forgot to mention that. I did it now. I apologize. I'm a little bit scatterbrained today, but that should not detract us from this first look. Now, aux page number 1, we got that covered. Aux page number 2, we have just general information about the unit itself. That's not really relevant for us. That's there in the trainer as well. That doesn't do anything. That page doesn't do anything for us in the simulator. It will just give you some basic information about the unit itself. Then going over to the FPL page. The FPL page, you would see your flight plan here if we had a flight plan loaded. We currently don't, because we're like just flying around VFR a little bit while I demonstrate this unit. But over here you would see your flight plan information, obviously together with your desired track, your distance, your ETA, chart, whether a chart is available or not for it. You also have the ability down here to set your minimums, either baro or radio, as well as the altitude. And you will also be displayed information like the active leg info, your active leg ESA, your route ESA, as well as the ability to change the data fields up top here. Desired track distance and ETA, you can change that to a a number of different other units should you so wish. That's page 1 of the flight plan. Page 2, sorry, page 2, there we go. Page 2 gives you the nearest info box that you would get on the GTN as well if you click on an airport. What you can do with that pretty easily and pretty quickly, again, you press the click on the inner, and then you have the ability to change either the source, which would be flight plan, nearest, recent. So if we go down here and we select KSLE, McNary, we will get the airport information of McNary, where we departed from, Salem in Oregon. It gives you airport information just like you would on the GTN or any other system of that sort. You will have the map down here, which you can zoom in, of course. You have the ability to look up various frequencies for the runways, etc. And you also have to look at the airport directory, giving you more information about the airport itself. And this works for any kind of airport or nav aid or whatever else you have, either in facility city. So if you want to type in, for example, if you want to look at a VOR, for example, we can do that as well. So we can go to... Oh no, it only works for airports. I'm sorry, it only works for airports. It does not work for nav aids, actually. Apologize. That is my mistake. It only works for airports, but it's still extremely useful if you need to look up airport information as a whole. Again, you also have your alerts back here. The alerts will always be present. It's always going to be at the bottom right. And then last but not least, we have flight plan page number 3, which is going to be your charts. So your charts, if you go as select, if you go to recent and select KSLE, it will show us our charts here, and they are geo-referenced. So if we would be close to KSLE, they would actually, our little airplane symbol would actually show up here. And what we can do here is we can select the airport diagram, climb descent table, lasso, and then, you know, your standard approach plates essentially that you can display. And you also have the ability that, again, if you middle mouse the inner knob, you have the ability to not only zoom in with the range buttons, but you will see the little scroll bars on the top and on the side here, and then with the inner and the outer, you have the ability to scroll around very quickly on the map itself. And then you also have the ability, of course, to, you know, zoom in and zoom out. So this is flight charts. They are derived from the GTN. So again, the GTN is required. You will need to have the GTN for this whole entire system to function. Keep that in mind. And that pretty much already covers the basics of this unit. Like I said, it is basically just a very advanced replacement for your EFIS 6-pack. I actually can illustrate specifically what I mean by that by just opening the right panel. So you go from your classic standard 6-pack that you would have in an old aircraft like that. All of this stuff gets removed, and it gets replaced by, you know, sweet glass, essentially. So, yeah. What we're going to do now is I'm going to go over to my desktop, and I will show you the configuration tool that it comes with. And I will also talk a little bit about the VC integration and how that actually works. And then we'll be back here for, I guess, a conclusion really quick, even though this is still only a first look and not a review. But I will talk to you in a second. Alright, here we are on my desktop to look at the Flight1 G500 G600 configuration utility. Again, if you've used the GTN before, if you own the GTN, this should be immediately familiar to you. We have a list of aircraft, we have exit, support, manual, and configure G600 buttons. So, what is important here is that if you have the GNS, you will be familiar with this, but if you buy this product, and you already have the GTN, and you own the Alabeo Seminole or the Alabeo Chieftain, and you have the Chieftain or the Seminole configured with the GTN, you will get an option to replace the Coronado/Alabeo gauge with the G600 itself. It will replace it in the VC. That is what you saw here. There will be more detailed instructions on how to do that in the manual of the finished product, but for now, out of the box, the Seminole and the Chieftain will be fully supported natively VC integration with the G500 and the G600. Beyond that, when you have it installed in an aircraft, you will have the ability to click Configure G600 down here, and then you will get a little pop-up that says it's a custom configured airplane, blah, blah, blah. And then you will get your configuration window where you can set up the 2D panel, the panel view, where you want it to be, where you want the stack to be, if you want it to be installed or not. And also you have various options for the unit itself. Namely that you can choose between the 3 styles, the 500, the 500H, and the 600. Point of order here, the 500 and the 600 are basically the same thing. The only difference is the certification level and the types of airplanes that can be installed. Hardware and software-wise, they are the same. The G500H is specifically designed for helicopters, which means that its waterline looks a little bit differently, and it has minorly different little software changes. But beyond that, you can choose whatever one of the units you wish to use, and you also have the usual suite of options and the ability to change things down here, like whether you want your flight director, your speeds, the brightness, and that's pretty much it, and the CPU core on which it runs. So it's very easy to set up, it's very easy to configure. There's not a lot of setup work that you actually have to do to get this working. And yeah, that pretty much covers the config utility, and I will see you back in the simulator in a second. And here we are back again in the simulator with the final conclusion. So, G500, G600 from Flight1. I personally think this is a step in the right direction. We need more avionics like this. I also like that it's... I know this is maybe contentious, but I do like the fact that it actually requires the GTN, because that ensures functionality, it ensures compatibility, and all these other things. So, in general, I would say this is an excellent product already. Even though this is a beta version that I'm currently showing you, it is already very complete and very functional, and will be out very, very soon from Flight1.com for $59.95. And I would actually really, really recommend you get it, because it is a very, very good system. It's going to be adopted very widespread, I hope. And it has synthetic vision, so what more do you want? If you are looking for glass replacement of certain airplanes that you have, or replacing certain glass gauges with this, then this is a very, very viable and very, very good option. So yes, I would actually recommend this. That's pretty much all I have to say. It's really, really good. I absolutely love it. I think it's one of the best things that could have happened in the flight sim scene in general lately. So yeah, there you go. Flight1, G500, G600, available soon. And I will see you next time.